Okay, hello everyone, welcome back to the Wellham's World YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing something that's gaming adjacent but not really a gaming video. It's a tier list. I've made a tier list for every single zombies game, Call of Duty Zombies experience. So there's 11 in total. On the left we've got the tiers. We've got GOAT, Amazing, Good, Meh and Y. Usually these are S, A, B, C, D, and then any further additions that people add. There's a specific reason why I chose to include these tiers rather than the letters. Obviously there's only going to be one GOAT. There's going to be one that goes in the top tier, and also there's one here specifically which I've never played. There's only one that I've never played of all of these zombies experiences. And the reason is because I just genuinely thought, why the fuck does it even exist? Why did it need to happen? It didn't really, but it did. That's why there's a Y tier as well. So along the bottom we've got all of our zombies games. We've got the first from left to right, Call of Duty World at War, and then we've got Black Ops 1, 2, 3 and 4. Then we've got Black Ops Cold War, Infinite Warfare, Call of Duty World War 2, Exo Zombies on Advanced Warfare, Vanguard Zombies, and then MWZ, which is Modern Warfare Zombies. And we're going to start the list off with the Y, and it's Modern Warfare Zombies. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to talk about each one and I'm going to go up the ranks, and I'm going to basically order them as if I am ordering them in terms of what I think from 11 to 1. We're going to start off with the Y, purely because this doesn't need to exist. This was a non-Treyarch game with a Treyarch Zombies mode, which is very strange. They've done that with Vanguard as well, and I think you can tell that they both kind of suffer because of that. And it didn't need to exist. It only really tied into everything when the last sort of update came out for it and they did a boss fight. And then the final cutscene sort of alludes to Liberty Falls. That's it. That's the only relevance to it at all. It's essentially a Warzone map with zombies on it. I'm aware that, and despite the fact I've never played it, but I'm aware, based on things I've seen online, that people were kind of upset with the lack of content that they got throughout the course of the game. So it just kind of seems like, why bother? And that's why it's there. The next one up in Meh, the second to bottom, is Exo Zombies from Advanced Warfare. I do think there are some things I like about this. The first map is good. The cast, there's some pretty strong actors and voice actors, I suppose, in it. There's Bruce Campbell, who's always fantastic. He plays Ash in The Walking Dead, and he's brilliant. John Malkovich, who I think is a pretty fantastic actor, and John Bernthal, who's a fucking badass. So that's pretty cool. The contact grenades were pretty cool. So it was essentially you shoot it, and as soon as it touches a wall, a floor, or a zombie, it explodes. Some of the weapons were pretty neat, but I think that's where it kind of loses everything else. I think kind of the Exo Zombies, okay, so the Exo suit movement was kind of cool as well. It's kind of different way to move about in zombies, added a different kind of layer to it. But one of the things I hated about this game was the electric zombies that essentially disabled your exosuit for a period of time. The amount of times as I jumped, it disabled it, and then I landed and got trapped in the horde. I think the only really strong map is the first one. I think the rest of them kind of aren't great or are forgettable. The second map I specifically remember, but that's for the wrong reasons, because it was the Burger Town one, and there were like map events that happened where certain areas of the map would get blocked off, or by gas, or you'd have to help a survivor. But then if you choose not to help a survivor, you get penalised anyway and you lose points, or you get a certain area blocked off, things like that, and it just kind of was just a bit crap. And I lost interest fairly quickly into it, but I think it had a bit of promise and a few of the features were quite cool. Next along in Meh, is Vanguard. Now this is another one similar to Modern Warfare Zombies, where it was a Treyarch developed zombies on a non-Treyarch map. This came out the year after Cold War. It develops the Cold War sort of dark ether story, but it's meant to be like a prequel, and it doesn't really, to me, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. But I think one of the issues I have with this game is replayability, purely because there are 4 maps in total. The first 2 are objective maps, then the third map is Shinonuma, which is a round-based survival map, and then the final map is the Archon, which is another round-based survival map, but it's a reskin of the second map. It's literally, instead of it being in a desert, well, it's still in a desert, but it's got a green tint to it. It's really strange and kind of shitty. I do think if the first 2 maps were potentially round-based, it might have made things a bit more enjoyable. Or if say they were all round-based maps, but they had alternative game modes where you had the objective game modes as alternatives for each map, so you could have round-based or that would add to the replayability and probably make it a lot more enjoyable. I do remember also Vanguard having a horrendous launch. Specifically, I do also remember that you couldn't pause the game, even on solo. You'd still get hit by zombies if you paused it, which is really stupid. That's just a horrendous, absolutely terrible, like, the fact that you've not been able to pause the game is so dumb. I know on Black Ops 3, or if you're on co-op and things, you can't pause it. But I get that someone could keep a zombie, but on solo you should always be able to pause it. It just makes sense. And I think that's kind of where it fell short, the replay. But I think by Vanguard, the World War II setting and guns and things like that kind of played out. I think most of the weapons that you get in Vanguard you've seen either some of them in World at War, or if not World War II. I think they are pretty much all the same guns. I think it kind of loses some of its aura, I guess, because it's kind of just a bit played out and a bit overused by that point. So we're moving up into good, and I'm going to start good with World War II. Might catch a little bit of slack. I know a lot of people didn't like this. I liked the horror elements. It kind of was like reverting back towards a more creepy, dark, scary ish type of zombies. And I do like the fact it's not Treyarch zombies, and you can tell, and I like that. I like that they've not tried to sort of emulate things to the past. They're very much like, we're going to do something different with this, and if you like it, you like it, and if you don't, you don't. But we're not trying to, we're not trying to replicate something. Is kind of the vibe I got from it. And I think it's great. David Tennant's in it, which is always fun. I like David Tennant, that's cool. But I think in general the maps are pretty good. I think the wonder weapons are pretty forgettable. I do remember the Tesla gun from the first one, and I remember on one of the later maps you've got a melee wonder weapon. But the hordes and the rounds seem more intense. Different enemy types was quite interesting. And yeah, I do think generally it's good. And I think that's fine. I think it's definitely not meh, but it's nowhere near amazing. I think it is just a very standard, decent, different interpretation of zombies, and I think that's why it deserves good. So we move on again, and this is our first the first zombies experience is going next. The World at War zombies experience is going next in good. Some people potentially might say that this is a bit low for World at War, and I can understand why. It's what spawned zombies. It's where it came from. It laid the foundations for the storyline. It introduced us to Richtofen and Tank Dempsey and Nikolai and Takeo. Introduced us to all of those. It introduced Pack-a-Punch, perks, monkey bombs, ray gun, Wunderwaffe. All these things that are really still integral in zombies and still used in zombies, all got introduced in World at War. But I do think the thing that kind of keeps it in good and keeps it in this position in good is the fact that it is obviously it's a product of its time. Things have developed since then, and I think the replayability is not really there because of what it is. Generally speaking, if you want to replay it, you could just play it on Black Ops 3. So they've basically given no real need for World at War to exist. There's no Easter eggs. There's no, there's no added things into the maps. They are just the maps. I know you got music Easter eggs, but that's about it. And obviously, Derice introduced the fly trap with the hide and seek, where you play with Samantha. But again, I do remember finishing the campaign on World at War, thinking I'd saved the world from the war, and then next thing you know, you're in a cutscene for zombies and you're laying on the floor, blinking in and out, and a zombie's charging at you. That was terrifying. This game genuinely did scare me. I was obviously a child when it got released, so maybe that's why sort of like the horror factor's depleted over the years. It's just because it doesn't seem as scary because I'm an adult. But Verrückt was very creepy and atmospheric. Shino Numa was the first time zombies spawned without breaking barriers. They spawned directly in the swamp. And it had the Easter egg song on there with the voice that says, "I know where you're sleeping," which is obviously very creepy. And this game did give me nightmares as a child. I refused to play it on my own. I played it with my dad and my brother, and I refused to play it at night or like when it was like dark outside. So it did have an effect on me, and I appreciate that. That if a game's supposed to have if a game has such a visceral sort of effect on me, then I appreciate that. But I do just think, like I said, it's a product of its time, and that's why it sort of sits where it is, kind of mid-table. Next, we've got Infinite Warfare Zombies, and it might catch a little bit of slack for putting that above World at War, but I just think that obviously the replayability is there more. Zombies in Spaceland is a fantastic. It's up there in terms of best launch maps, I think. In terms of just the map itself. I think the characters are quite fun. The style of it is just different. It's like I said, it's another non-Treyarch Zombies where the developers have gone, fuck it, we're going to put our own spin on this. Raven the Redwoods is good. Shallon Shuffle's good. The Beast from Beyond is not that great. Oh, and then there's Attack of the Radioactive Thing, which I also think is a good concept of the map generally. Maybe lacked execution slightly, but the sort of celebrity appearances were quite neat. You had David Hasselhoff and I think it was Kevin Smith in Raven and Redwoods, which David Hasselhoff is pretty cool. So yeah, I think that's why it sort of deserves good. It's just different. The zombie clown round was cool on Spaceland, and I think a lot of the people that would just straight up criticise this game and say it's shit, usually are people that have never played it. I think if people have played Infinite Warfare Zombies, they'll at least think it's good for what it is. And I think maybe another reason why it didn't get such a good reception is maybe because the game of Infinite Warfare didn't. The exo sort of suit movement on the multiplayer pissed people off because they wanted boots on the ground combat, and it got a bit of a poor launch because of that. And I think maybe that sort of bled into the different game modes. I don't remember the campaign at all, and that I think maybe says everything you need to know. And then we move on to the final game in the good category, and that is, where is he? It's there, Black Ops 2, and I think that might catch me a little bit of slack as well. We need to put it goes above Infinite Warfare, so it's the best one in the good category. The main reason it doesn't get amazing for me is because of the first two maps. I would say in general, I'd say Transit is one of my least favourite Zombies maps. I do not like it at all. I quite liked the fact that you can have, like farm and town and bus depot, and you can do survival and things like that in those areas. But again, they didn't really add anything. The fog kind of, with the denizens in it, was a bit shit. And I understand why it existed. It's because PS3s and things like that couldn't handle like rendering such large distances, so they had to cover it in fog. But then my argument would then be maybe you've been a bit too ambitious, and you probably should have focused on the execution rather than trying this big massive idea that you knew you couldn't really execute without shortcuts. Die Rise is just okay at best. It was better when the Sliquifier wasn't when the Sliquifier was pre-patched. It was probably better. But falling off the map was very annoying. Slipping off the map was very annoying. Who's Who being introduced in that map was not ideal. And Tombstone being introduced in the first map in Transit was not great. So that's 2 shit perks back to back. And I just think it does get better. I mean, Buried was fantastic, really good map, very solid map. Introduced Vulture Raid. The Witch's House was something that was just completely unique and new. The Paralyzer was a very unique, again, wonder weapon. The Time Bomb, something we've not seen since. It was very different. Giving the candy or the booze to the hillbilly bloke to break things open. They were all the chalks on the wall that you painted the wall, and then you got points for them, and you could put whatever weapon where you wanted. There are a lot of interesting things added into Buried that we never really saw again, or that weren't really featured again. And then I think Mob of the Dead and Origins, I don't really need to say too much about them because they are widely considered the two of the greatest maps of all time. Wouldn't necessarily say they are the greatest, wouldn't necessarily say they're my favourites, but they're definitely up there, I would suggest. But I think the launch of the game and where it started from kind of taints the fact that it can't quite be considered amazing. And also I think the crew is really annoying. I think Malton does my head in. Rustman is really annoying. Stuhlinger, I used to hate getting him because you'd have to talk to fucking Richtofen and it would do my absolute nutting. So I think those are the things that take it away from being any higher, but I do think it's probably the best game in the good region. That leads us on to amazing, and I would say that all of these that are left are at the very least considered amazing, or by myself. The first one that goes into it, and it does pain me a little bit to put this here because I absolutely think Cold War Zombies is fantastic. And when people see the stuff for Black Ops 6 Zombies and they say, oh, it's basically Cold War 2.0, that is absolutely fine by me because I love Cold War Zombies. I play it a lot on stream, I play it a lot off stream. I think the maps, except for, I think Firebase C is probably the weakest map. I think it's just so generic. I think if they'd have expanded the village section more and done less at the base, then that would have maybe made it a more interesting map. And I think alternatively with D Machine, if they did more with the underground base as opposed to just the stuff on top as well, if they focus more on the base, the bunker, that would have been more interesting in that sense. But I think Mauer de Toten is a fantastic map. Forsaken is a fantastic map. I think Outbreak Zombies is a really interesting bonus sort of game mode. And then you've got Cranked on top of that, which is like another way to play. I know they did it with Firebase C and D Machine. The Wonder Weapons are really solid. Generally, the die in D Machine has 4 or 5 different alternate ammo types, and they're all, some are better than others, but they're all interesting in their own right. The Cerberus is on Mauer de Toten is a really, really good wonder weapon, and I think the Reike is probably the weakest, which again I think adds to the map of Firebase C not necessarily being my favourite. But I think also the boss zombies, the Megaton, the Abomination, Mimics, things like that, they're all nice. None of them seem ridiculously overpowered. The Abomination is obviously a bit tanky if you don't shoot it in the mouse, similar to the Margwa. But generally I would say that this deserves to be and I think it's probably got the best gameplay in terms of movement and things like that. I think it's the smoothest. I do get people's concerns or negative feedback with things like the armor system and the salvage system. It's quite convoluted, or not convoluted, but it's a bit maybe overworked. You probably don't need 2 types of scrap. You could probably get away with just doing 1, which is what they did in Vanguard, and I think they're doing in Black Ops 6. So I get people's issues with it, gripes with it, and I do understand the whole it lacks a bit of personality, because you don't, with things like the Pack-a-Punch, for example, on old games, you'd put it in, you'd hear the music as it goes through and it comes out, but this is sort of a menu where you select, which I get not being particularly fond of. And I think, like people say with the perks, kind of feel like it's not the same, because you can just buy any of them. You don't have to think about, you could literally just go to the Wonder Fizz machine and buy them all if you've got the money. So I do get that, but I still do think it should be considered amazing. And that leads us on to the top 3. So we have Black Ops 1, Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4. I think the only one that potentially is a bit of an outlier for a lot of people would probably be Black Ops 4. I know it wasn't widely received particularly well. However, the next one in line is actually Black Ops 1. I think the sort of, if you look at the jump that was made in zombies between Der Riese, the end point of World at War, and Moon, the end point of Black Ops 1, the jump is so crazy. I think each map builds in Black Ops 1. I think you start with a fairly standard map, which isn't too dissimilar from Der Riese in terms of its features in Kino. But you've also got 5, which is very different. You've got and the crew on 5 is wild. Like, you've got JFK and things like that. That's crazy. But you've also got the underground lab and the Pentagon, which is a really cool setting for a map. You've got the Pentagon Thief, which was a very unique enemy that doesn't come back even on Classified, which I think it should have on Black Ops 4, but it didn't. And you've got the Winter's Howl, which is very unique as well. And then it just builds with Ascension. You've got introductions of lunar landers. You've got the Pack-a-Punch, you need to launch the rocket first. You've got PhD Flopper. You've got the monkeys that come down instead of dogs, and they crash into it in like the satellite sort of spaceship things. And then you move on to sort of Shangri-La and Call of the Dead. You've got a really good celebrity cast in Call of the Dead, with the people they've cast now, like Danny Trejo, Robert Englund, Michael Rooker, and Sarah Michelle Gellar. It's just a crazy cast, and it's fantastic. And you've got George Romero, who's just strolling around the map, and if you shoot him, he gets angry, and you have to calm him down in water and things like that. And it's just really, I think this was the point where you thought, okay, they're really going to just take zombies and run with it. You thought it was maybe just like a bit of a bonus mode in World at War, but in Black Ops you kind of realise, okay, they're doing something with this. They're building a storyline. You know, you had you went to the fucking moon and you blew up, you blew up the Earth. That's mental. That's the crazy leap from Black Ops. And Shangri-La is probably still, I'd consider, one of the toughest maps ever released. So I think I think every map on Black Ops is at least great. I just think the only thing that stops it going higher than this, which I still think this is very high for Black Ops 1, but I think the only thing that does stop it going high is similar to the World at War thing, where it's kind of like a product of its time. And we've just had so much development since, and in these 2 games at the left, I think it's kind of due to that extra development and progress in zombies as a game mode is what makes these 2 the top 2. So we have one more space in Amazing and one space in GOAT. We've got Black Ops 3 here and Black Ops 4 here. People that know me very well personally will know exactly where this is going to go, and I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this, but the final space in Amazing goes to Black Ops 3, and the final space in GOAT the only space in GOAT goes to Black Ops 4. And I know I'm going to catch some flack. This is probably the most sort of hot take I have, is that I think Black Ops 4 is the best zombies. And I know there's not a lot of people on the planet that would agree with that, but I think that in terms of sheer volume of content, I think it adds to it. I think the quality of the map, there's 2 storylines. I think that the Chaos story is fantastic and criminally underrated. The only issue I have with that is fucking Shaw, who's the old bloke. He just annoys the piss out of me. But aside from that, I don't think I have any real faults with Chaos. I think the maps are really unique and fun. But we'll come back to Black Ops 4 and we'll speak about Black Ops 3, because some people might think it's hard done by, and it should be number 1. And I get why you would say that, but I'm taking the Black Ops 3 story, or not story necessarily, but the maps. I'm disregarding Chronicles, because they're all, mentioned before. I know part of what I said about World at War was that you don't really need to play World at War anymore because you've got them on Black Ops 3, and that's true, but I don't think having Chronicles on Black Ops 3 actually increases the sort of the. It doesn't really increase how good Black Ops 3 Zombies is to me. It's just extra bonus stuff, which is fun, and gets you to come back to the game a bit more. But I think the Shiranuma version is worse than it is on Black Ops 1 and World at War because of the mud and the swamp. And I think the BO2 Black Ops 2 Origins is better than the Black Ops 3 Origins because of the same reason, with the mud. It makes those not unplayable, but really tedious sometimes. I know you don't have to go through the mud on Shiranuma. You can kind of train in areas that avoid that, so that's avoidable. But in Origins specifically, it makes that difficult. But I really didn't like Shadows of Evil when it launched. I liked the cast. I like Jeff Goldblum. I think he's fantastic. I like Ron Perlman. He's cool. But I didn't like the actual map. I thought the Beast stuff was a bit meh. I thought, I just didn't really get on with that map. And then I have done since, and my evaluation of that map goes up quite a lot now. Drak is considered one of the fan favourites of all time, and I think it is great. I think Zetsubou is my favourite Black Ops 3 map. I think it's. I know people didn't like the watering the plants element, but I like the spider mini boss fight. The wonder weapon's great. The specialist in the Skull of Nansapwa is by far the best specialist and the most unique and cool specialist we've ever had. And the Thrashers weren't too overpowered to the point where it became mature when they spawned. So I think Zetsubou, for me, I hold it a lot dearer than a lot of people do. I think Gorod is the letdown of the Black Ops 3 cycle. By far, Gorod Crovey. I think it's really weak in comparison to the rest of the maps. The dragon that breathes fire is so frustrating. The drones are really annoying. The riding the dragon to Pack-a-Punch is cool, but once you've seen that cutscene once, you've seen it a million times. And then I think the other kind of thing that I do like about Gorod actually is the gauntlet specialist with the dragon, but I still think it's way weaker than the skull. I think the skull's just having that first kind of blew that out of the water, even though it's a fucking dragon on your arm. And then you get Revelations, which is kind of like the culmination of the story so far. You've got all of the old maps returning and portals between them and jump pads, and you've got the you can go into the into Nacht and then into the big Leviathan thing, which I forget what it's called, but the Apothecon, whatever you want to call it. But I think my issue with Revelations, and I had the urge to play it the other day, and I played it on stream. But after a little while, I had the Thundergun, I had the Apothecon Servant, I had all my perks, and I thought, there's no challenge anymore. The Marg was spawning, you fucking 3-bang them with the Thundergun. The Panzers come in, and they're just kind of there, and you just bin them off. Little Arnies are also a really cool introduction into Black Ops 3. But that leads us on to Black Ops 4, and I think you get 8 maps. So we started with 3 maps in 9, Blood of the Dead and Classified. We then got Dead of the Night, Ancient Evil. Oh wait, we started with 4 maps because we also had Voyage of Despair, which I forgot. So we had 4 maps. We had 4 for Aether and 4 for Chaos. The biggest, I think, letdown in maps on, I think, Black Ops 4 maybe are Alpha Omega and Tag the Totem. I would say that all of the Chaos maps are fantastic. The story had so much potential, but I think the issue that we had was people didn't like that, and they said they didn't care about the characters and they wanted more of the original crew and things like that, and they wanted to continue that story. Why have we got 2 stories? We don't care about that one. But the issue I had was that I thought that had the most potential and the most, like, we could have gone to ancient Egypt, or we could have gone all these different periods in time like we did with 9. And then we've got Ancient Evil, which Ancient Evil is crazy. It's absolutely wild that exists. It's just so out there. And I think one of the issues they had with the Chaos story is that 9 was meant to be the first DLC, and you're meant to get Voyage and Dead of the Night. And I think that because of the way that it became a prequel rather than and it just was a bit messy. I think that's what the issue was with that, because they didn't get all the celebrity voice actors. They didn't get their lines in time. But yeah, I think the sort of loadout setting is the best we've had, where you can choose. You've got a couple of pistols, the attack rifle, an SMG. I also do like the perk system in Black Ops 4. I wouldn't necessarily want to go back to it, but I don't dislike it. Elixirs work in a similar way to Gobblegums, and I think generally speaking, I think I do have the most fun playing on Black Ops 4, and you can do the usual maps on survival. You can do them on casual, normal. There's hard, veteran. There's like realistic difficulties where if you get hit once, you're gone and you're done. And there's also gauntlets, which I've not played a lot of, but they are a different game mode. So I think there is a lot more replayability in that. And like I said, I just do really enjoy the Chaos storyline, and I think it's an absolute travesty and a shame that we haven't had that come back. So that is my final Call of Duty Zombies tier list. It's fully ranked in order. So the bottom, the Pits of Hell, Modern Warfare, and then we go up to Exo Zombies, Vanguard, World War II, World at War, Infinite Warfare, Black Ops 2, Cold War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 3, and then Black Ops 4. Like I said, this is my opinion, purely opinion. I'm not saying that you have to agree with me. By all means, I know people are going to disagree with me. I know it's a hot take to put Black Ops 1 first. I know it's probably a hot take to put it in top 3, really. I think maybe putting Cold War as high as I did, people would disagree with as well. Maybe putting World at War as low as I did, people might disagree with as well. If you did disagree, let me know how you would rank them in the comments. I'm more than open to have discussions about that. And yeah, if you did enjoy, please leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll be doing a lot more zombies content, and when Black Ops 6 comes out, I'll be doing lots of Black Ops 6 content as well. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.